And good morning. Thank you for joining us. Andrea Drake here with you for this special edition of Viewpoint. This hour, we will be addressing the growing crime and increase in gun violence in our rural communities. Joining me this morning in studio, I have Chief of Police Ryan Cochran and Susanville City Administrator Dan Newton, as well as Captain Bollinger with the Police Department. Later in this hour, we will be hearing from Plumas County Sheriff Todd Johns, and I'll also be opening the phone lines in just a moment to hear your concerns. That number to dial will be 257-8256. Again, that's 257-8256. I'll be inviting your phone calls later in this hour. So I want to go ahead and welcome you, gentlemen, to the show. Again, we're addressing these issues in light of the alarming multiple shootings in Susanville in just the course of about 1 month, a couple weeks here. Now, Chief, you can you speak to gun violence trends in our town compared to previous years? So I did pull some numbers from the Sheriff's Office and the PD's online records, which I know you'll share a little bit more on later this hour as well. So I was looking at it, 12 instances of either shots heard or brandishing a gun in the first 18 days of this month alone. And also in discussion I've had with the sheriff's detectives who said he's seen impacts to public safety realignment. Of course, that's through AB 109, Prop 47, 57, impacting recent years in the sophistication of crime as more felons are released back into our communities. And only adding to that, they're the ones with the guns. So the sheriff's office confirming that they have seen the biggest increase in felons in possession of firearms being the crime that they're seeing most. Now, Chief, what are your insights into the reasons behind these increases?
First of all, thank you for having us on. Like you said, we just want to stop by, give you an update on what's been trending in Susanville, and the gun violence has definitely gone up in the last year. I think last year we had 4 total, and I think this year with the same time period we're up to 10.
Up to 10 already for this year alone. Now, what do you feel is the contributing factor to that? Is it safety public realignment? Is it just the boldness in criminals? Just being more open to committing these type of crimes?
I think it's all the above. Things have definitely changed. When someone gets arrested for one of these crimes, the sentence can be sometimes a little less than it would have been 10 years ago. So the consequences are not as high as they were years ago. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of these ones that we are talking about, Prop 47, the Safe Neighborhoods and School Act, these are Prop 57, 109, these all were reductions the goal was to reduce prison population, so putting a lot of reducing sentencing and things like that. I know Captain Bollinger could probably help share a little more insight on those as well. Now, do you feel that there's any specific neighborhoods or areas in our town that are experiencing a disproportionate increase in crime or not?
Well, we've been seeing it kind of all over town, but what we have noticed is that all the shootings that we've had recently have all been acquaintances of each other. So they've all kind of known each other, kind of been in the same circle.
Okay.
So we've been working hard. We've made several arrests. I think we've made 5 arrests out of the 6 shootings, and we're working on the 6th one, and I think we have some good leads on that one as well.
Excellent. One just recently happening.
Correct.
We shared that in the news this morning, the Knock Avenue shooting, that suspect being apprehended. So congratulations on that. That's great to hear. Now, how has the department adjusted to its strategies to combat these type of challenges? Are there things in place? Are you making adjustments in light of this recent increase?
We have been. One of the things we've done is we've brought in an officer to help our detective because he's been so busy with all the major crimes we've been having. Mm-hmm. So we're utilizing an extra body in that office to help him out and to get him some training for the future so he can jump in there at some point and kind of take over and get some experience.
Excellent.
So we've been doing that. We've been doing some more focused patrols in certain parts of town, certain areas. We've been having a larger presence. Hopefully that'll reduce whatever crime we can prevent. Just being in the area, it seems to help out quite a bit.
So just presence alone is kind of a deterrent.
Correct. And of course, we're being very transparent on social media with all the press releases, all the stats. You can always go out to our website and take a look at that and check that out. It's pretty cool.
So you were mentioning a lot of these shootings were folks who were associated with each other. Is this big city crime coming into our small rural communities, or are these long-standing families or folks that have been in our community, or are they coming from the bigger cities and bigger areas? Because we're seeing a lot of movement out of like the Bay Area and Reno and Sacramento. Everyone's kind of moving and dispersing a little bit further up and out of the area, just mainly due to cost of living. It's so expensive to live down in these areas. So we're seeing an influx of folks coming into the area. Is that a contributing factor, or is it folks that have been longstanding in our communities?
I think it's some of both. Definitely the lifestyle in Susanville's changed in the last 10, 15 years. We're growing. We are getting a lot of people from out of the area to move up here because it is a little more inexpensive to live and raise kids.
And it is a beautiful place.
It is.
We'll add that in.
And, we love it here. And, we're trying to, keep crime to a minimum. But, things happen and we deal with it and take care of it and try to prevent what we can prevent and have a big presence in our community.
So can you briefly touch on staffing levels? You've been successful. Dan, I know we'll touch on this a little bit too. You've been able to get people in those spots where they're needed, get the department almost fully staffed. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure. A couple years ago, it was a real hard time to recruit people to Susanville. We really focused on that and went out and did a big hiring campaign, and we were successful. We were fully staffed there for a while. Now we're down one position, so we're trying to get that filled. But I just think that, staffing levels, it's always going to be hard to be fully staffed, but the right people in the right places, and I think that really helps out a lot.
And Dan, that was due to the success of the recent measure that voters passed.
Yes, thanks, Andrea. And then just to echo some of Chief Cochran's sentiments, thanks for having us on. It's a big part of our job to be present and provide information to the community. We are concerned, obviously, about this increase in gun violence in the city. So we're taking it, obviously, very seriously. And also want to give a shout out to our law enforcement team members in our police department who are doing an excellent job running down these leads and catching the bad guys. I think that we're fortunate to have the staffing that we do have, and in large part thanks to the voters of the city of Susanville who approved Measure P. We were facing a significant tough decision. A couple years ago, we were looking at service cuts, and we were actually at a point budgetarily where we were going to need to make some cuts to our public safety services. And because of Measure P, we didn't need to do any of those cuts. We were actually able to provide some pay increases to our public safety personnel, police and fire, which gets us closer to being competitive in the job market, which is very important. I feel like the city council prioritizes public safety within our community. It's evident in our budget. We spend over 75% of our general fund on public safety services. Mm-hmm. And so those things, I think, are positives based on the situation that we're in now with some of the state laws that have changed that are reducing the sentencing for these types of crimes. I think probably some of these circumstances wouldn't have happened because some of the perpetrators would still be in prison or jail. Mm-hmm. And so those are real impacts on our community, and we are fortunate in Susanville to be able to have an almost fully staffed police department, knowing that we are close to our existing staffing levels as far as what we have in our budget. It's true that we're still probably on a population percentage per capita understaffed from law enforcement services. So there are some guidance documents that kind of dictate the number of patrol officers you should have based on population, and we're operating under those, and we have been for years. But on the other hand, it could be much worse. So.
Are there any other ways that the city's allocating resources to help combat crime and improve public safety?
I think in regards to focusing on filling our vacant positions, as well as making sure that our law enforcement staff has the appropriate equipment and training that they need to do their job. We're a little bit also behind with equipment, so we're the Police Department recently acquired a new patrol vehicle, as well as there's one on the way. So there are things that are being done to improve the work environment and hopefully our ability to recruit and retain the officers that we currently have. And then I'll leave it to Captain Bollinger or Chief Cochran to maybe talk more specifically about some of the things we're doing.
Sure. Captain Bollinger, you want to join the conversation?
Sure. Just to show that everything's not doom and gloom. Actually, some of the statistics froze. So 2022, last year, January, till this year, most of our stats are actually down, with the exception of, with the recent amount of shootings that we've had. So it is kind of an oddity.
That is interesting.
Burglaries are way down. Last year, for instance, at this time, we had handled, I believe it was up in the 90s. We had close to 100 burglaries last year at this time. This year, we're 70% below that.
Wow.
So that's quite a bit down.
Okay.
Our simple assaults on public that we usually respond to, those are about 50% down. Yet our calls for service this year are up 20%. So what happens is, we have 2 officers on duty plus a sergeant. They're going call to call to call. So the proactivity, we try to find time to do that. And that's where, in between calls, the guys are out making traffic stops, extra patrols in neighborhoods where some of these individuals may reside, and trying to identify them. Just contacting them on the street during the day, during nighttime, bicycles, the shady characters that are wearing the backpacks and kind of making the rest of the citizens feel uncomfortable. Those are the folks we're out looking for. And normally those are the ones that are causing most of our problems.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that the river cleanup has been successful in mitigating some of that?
Quite a bit. Compared to last year, I believe this year, Chief and I have been down there numerous times this year checking the river, and we might have 1 or 2 temps within the city limits of Susanville. Compared to last year where we probably had 8 to 10. And we try to assist those folks, get them to move on or try to get them some type of services. Problem is, when we make contact with them, 90% of those folks did not want our assistance.
Right.
So, but we are trying to alleviate that this year. Dan and his team actually went and got a grant. We're going to be adding a CSO position to our department that is specifically geared toward homelessness.
And
so
that
that's
is
gonna be huge.
Explain the CSO, just for folks who may not be aware.
CSO stands for Community Service Officer.
There we go.
Yeah, so this person's job is going to be, it's a full-time position, but their main goal is to identify these folks, try to work with the county, work with their health services agency to find placement for these folks, maybe some family members that don't live here, and let's just try to help what we can.
And Captain Bollinger, do you agree with what I shared earlier with what the sheriff's office detective was sharing, that they've seen the largest increase of felons in possession with firearms? Do you feel like that's something that's a concern within the city as well, or are you seeing a different type of crime being more prominent?
That's a concern for all of the America, not just us. We're not in the bubble. The biggest problem is felons don't follow gun laws. No. California, Illinois, New York has some of the most gun laws in the country, yet we have the highest violent crime with the individuals that are convicted felons possessing firearms. Unfortunately, just last night, again, we had an individual who's a convicted felon allegedly point a gun at his sister. So they don't follow the same rules that you and I do and everybody else does in our community.
What do you think can be done about that throughout our state? Is there anything, if anything?
The laws have really have been laxed. If it's not a complete violent crime, even with the realignment and some of these individuals that are now released out of custody, they're not looking at the full picture of their background. They might go into custody for a possession charge or a burglary charge, but they're being released early because that doesn't fall under the new state guidelines. PRCS, part of the alignment, probation department, very understaffed. Most law enforcement in the country is very understaffed. And it's unfortunate because people just law enforcement, public safety has been villainized. So why would the new generation enter this type of work? Our poor DA's office, I mean, shoot, her hands are tied with bail reform, it's not what it used to be. But 3 strikes is gone, so it's very difficult to keep these individuals inside.
I'm glad you tied that in because I was curious how prosecution and getting arraignments and everything completed has been impacted with this and in the delay, because there's a lot of time you say, oh, well, like this last case where the gentleman was arrested but released back out, and it says, okay, you got to come back on the 18th.
Bail. Low bail. Mm-hmm. 20 years ago, his bail would have been probably closer to $100,000, whereas today it might have been $20,000. So it's very easy for these individuals to come out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's unfortunate. Now, any long-term strategies for sustainable crime reduction? Or are we just kind of going to try to continue to staff the department and keep that presence out there? Is that the goal, or is there other things in the works?
That's the main goal, but also would like to make the public aware of what's going on, get feedback from the public on issues that are happening in their neighborhood or around their businesses. We need to be a little more proactive instead of reactive, and with that, we need more bodies and more equipment. The more of us that are out there, the more that we can try to prevent and keep our community safe.
And speaking of equipment, is the department doing well with as far as what equipment is needed to support your duties and what you're doing, or is that more funding needs to be found through grants and things like that?
We're always using grants. We have an OTS grant. We just did an operation earlier this week or last week. Really successful. So we're always looking at opportunities for additional funding. But since Measure P, we've been able to buy a few vehicles, update some equipment. Like Dan said, we're getting our guys to the best training we can to have the most well-rounded, well-trained officers that we can provide. So we're doing good, but we can always do better.
Yes, that's always true in all aspects of our life, right? Now, I know we've touched on a little bit of trying to help, say, homelessness get to services so that crime can be reduced. Is the city working with any other social services, or how are they working with social services, mental health agencies, substance abuse programs to address these underlying factors that do contribute to a lot of the crime that we see?
Oof. Okay.
Is that a big one?
Everything's kind of in a status quo currently. There are some future programs that the state wants implemented here all over California. Care Court's a big one, where that's going to help a lot of folks, not just homelessness, but mental health, but that takes money. And a lot of that funding from the state, it's really not there for us locally, because they're telling us, hey, you need to do X, Y, Z, find the money. So those are all types of things that have to be implemented as well. Mental health, our guys probably deal with somebody in crisis at minimum of once a day, if not twice. So a lot of times these folks, when we make contact with them, there's certain things that we can and we can't do. We have to talk to them, ask them questions, and if they answer these questions correctly, our hands are tied. We can't forcibly take somebody in on a evaluation hold. We can offer them services, offer them the numbers to mental health, counseling, and stuff like that through the county. But that individual has to be willing to accept it.
Yes, and that's kind of the challenge that is faced. And it's just it comes down to that, if they're willing to or not.
Very much so.
Yes.
And it also corresponds with our last 5 of the 6 shootings where the victims, they're not that truthful with their statements to us. So we're having to, it causes us more time and effort. It puts pressure on our investigator to make contact with numerous witnesses to put a case together for the DA to prosecute. And unfortunately, sometimes she'll have to prosecute a case without a victim, just based on witness testimony.
That is true. You see a lot of the times, and when she does get a conviction, you share thanks for the victims for being a part of this and actually helping see this through, because it's the big crucial piece in the pie. Definitely. Now, the cluster of shootings that did happen here in Susanville most recently, do you feel that was just an anomaly, or are we possibly going to continue to see this happen more frequently?
Well, this was definitely rare for our city. I don't think this is something that's going to happen all the time. It's definitely unusual. Normally we don't have that many shootings throughout the whole year. So to have in such a short time, it's alarming, and it's really getting our attention, and we're really working hard to at least get someone in custody for being involved, or at least being held responsible. So we're definitely working on that, and yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit about the online records that the community can access to see what is occurring in town, so they can feel a little safer about what's actually happening around them, and follow through and see who's been arrested and all that details, because that's very accessible to them.
It is, and it's very easy. So all you have to do is go to susanville.crimegraphics.com, and pulls up a screen, and you can look at the crimes, stolen vehicles, missing persons, vacation checks. You can have your house checked if you're going on vacation. And it's very easy to use, and it's updated daily. So it's a good tool if you want to see what's going on in the city of Susanville.
And there's even that map that can it'll pinpoint, drop little pins, and
Correct.
with a corresponding number colored saying what's actually occurred.
Right.
And most often when you do look at it, there's nothing there. So it is makes you feel a little more reassuring, because you see, once you do look at it on a daily basis or a weekly basis, you're seeing, okay, it's not that bad here.
And it has an arrest log too, so you can see who was arrested. That's all public information. So that's all on there too. It's a pretty good website.
And you didn't mention stolen vehicles. They recently putting out that press release too about the 21 plus vehicles that were stolen just in the 1 month, and like 3 in multiple in one day. That's kind of on trend with this cluster of shootings as well, but that's also just an odd. What was that?
Yeah, no, we're finding the cars the next morning, so it's almost like they're joyriding them for a couple hours and then dumping them, and then we find them in the morning. In most cases, I'm like,
Yeah.
So most of those have been recovered.
Yes.
the majority of them have.
Quite a few of them. And we've narrowed it down to probably one individual. It's just, we have to catch him to do it. And it's almost like he's just too lazy to walk across town. He's grabbing someone's car, driving it to the other side of town, dumps it, grabs something else in the neighborhood. The reason for the press release is, folks, lock up your cars. Take your keys out of them. I mean, that's a crime of opportunity, and we're making it easy for these guys.
We get a little too comfortable living in this type of area, growing
We
up
do.
that way, always keeping your keys in your car, warming up your vehicle unlocked, and things like that.
Winter's
it's-
coming. People are going to be warming up their cars, and don't do that. Just don't do it.
Well, there you have it. So we are just at the bottom of the hour here. We're going to be welcoming Sheriff Todd Johns out of Plumas County here in just a few moments as well, to share his perspective coming out of Plumas County, and a little bit more in depth on his staffing situation right now, currently on a single swing shift patrol for the entire county, utilizing the help of a lot of other agencies to get coverage. So we'll be reaching out to Sheriff Todd Johns here in just a few moments. Keep it right here with us on this special edition of Viewpoint. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Sheriff Johns.
Hi, Todd. How are you doing?
Hi, Andrea.
Thanks for being nice to us. Are you on the road?
No worries. I'm good.
Okay, good. You pulled over?
No.
All right. So we just give it as brief as you'd like, as much time as you can. Just really, again, want to touch on kind of your perspective of the level and sophistication of crime in the county, and we can touch on the staffing that you're currently experiencing. I know we've touched on it a couple times before, but just to kind of reiterate that and any efforts that have taken place in between that time. Sound good?
Okay. So are we live today?
We will be live.
So I don't need people to know I'm out of town. How's that?
Yeah, we won't say that. We won't mention
Okay.
All right, so let's just give it another 30 seconds, and then we'll pull you in.
No worries.
All right, hang tight. I'm going to pull it down real quick so I can get it all queued up.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 9:33 is your time. Thanks for joining us for this special edition of Viewpoint as we address crime in our rural communities, a perceived increase, and much more. We are now continuing our conversation and welcoming on Plumas County Sheriff Todd Johns with a perspective of Plumas County crime. Welcome to the program, Sheriff. We appreciate you joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for the invite.
You're very welcome. We always appreciate your time here. And we are continuing the conversation about increased crime and the impacts it's having on our rural communities, especially in light of the public safety realignment. Can you touch on a little bit of your perspective of how crime has maybe gotten more sophisticated within your county?
Well, sure. With the changing laws, things that used to be felonies that people went to jail for are now misdemeanors, and folks rarely go to jail for misdemeanors. So, retail theft specifically is through the roof. The governor is throwing millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars at the retail theft problem, not just in our rural counties, but statewide. You have inmates that are being released earlier and coming back to the communities, or being realigned to the counties that they came from and committed their crimes, and they're coming back to the jails. And because they're seasoned inmates, they are able to communicate and discuss their activities with lower level inmates. So, as far as the sophistication of crimes, we've always had sophisticated crimes, but, it's increasing rapidly, especially with, what's going on with computers and that type of thing. So.
And do you feel like the state is supportive of law enforcement and helping combat these challenges?
That's an interesting question. I think that the state is, my personal opinion is, I believe the state recognizes that they have created issues that we are now having to deal with on a critical basis, and they know that they have to provide the funding to allow us to do that. So, the problem is rural counties, especially, we're short-staffed. I'm short-staffed right now, but a lot of rural counties are short-staffed, and we don't have the time or the folks to actually go out and deal with retail crime theft. So, and it's abundant everywhere. I mean, our local stores are losing. You could talk to them; they're losing thousands of dollars a month from people that are stealing stuff from them. And of course, the consumers are the ones that have to pay for that. And then most stores now, if they see people stealing stuff, they won't even confront them because they're afraid that they're going to get sued. So It's a mess.
It is seem this evil that's just trickling into all kinds of facets of our communities. You know, you're mentioning going into retail and even staffing. Do you feel like that has impacted your abilities to hire? Is because of what your deputies can actually do to combat crime? They're so limited.
Well, I think the staffing shortages in deputies has been, for 3 years now. It started with COVID. Then you had defund the police and all of those movements. And certainly it is a deterrent for people to stay in law enforcement because you have officers out there that are doing a lot of great work, and they're taking people into custody, and then those folks are being released before they even get their report written. So, yeah, it's discouraging on all fronts. And, the good thing about our smaller communities, I think overall we have a tremendous amount of support from the public that a lot of the larger cities cops may not see, but it's still a deterrent, certainly.
I agree with you. I think our law enforcement is very fortunate that a lot of our communities have very strong support for our law enforcement and want to see the best and see them funded. Speaking of that, has there been any progress in the negotiations with the Sheriff's Association to help with your short staffing? I know that's been at critical levels, and you even have the threats of losing more due to pay, you citing that your department's almost one of the ones that are the lowest paid throughout the state. Any improvement or process that's happened since we've last spoke with you?
Well, I know that the board met last Tuesday on the issue, and then again yesterday. I'm hoping that they will be able to produce a good offer for my staff or our staff in Plumas County, but I don't know. It's something that is done in closed session. Negotiations are always done in closed session, and I'm not privileged to that information. So I'm hopeful. I mean, I certainly have given them all of the information that I can to help them make a good decision, and the citizens are getting more involved and staff's getting more involved, but yeah, we're pretty much at critical staffing at all levels, so it's been difficult.
Now, do you feel that, I know there's been citizens concerned about this being made very public, how often it's been cited. Do you feel that has impacted the number of instances of crime? Do you feel that because it's known that there's so little coverage that crime has increased due solely on that fact?
So as of right now, we're not seeing a big increase in the amount of crime in the county. I had two avenues that I could take. I could have not told the public, certainly, that we were going on modified shifts and what was going on, and then I had the other avenue of telling them. And the reason for telling them is that, for certainly the 33 years that I've worked with the sheriff's office, we provided a level of service during certain hours of the day. The citizens of the county are accustomed to that and are aware of what we were doing. And to have to make such a big change, I wanted the public to be aware of that, to be able to protect their property. I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head earlier. We don't live in the Plumas County or the Lassen County that was there 30 years ago. You can't leave your chainsaw in the back of your truck. You can't leave your truck unlocked. You can't leave your purse on the front seat. You can't leave your doors unlocked. Folks have to start securing their property. Unfortunately, I wish we did, but so I wanted the citizens of the county to know where we were at, and so they can protect their stuff and keep an eye on it. And if they see things, that doesn't mean they still don't call us. Doesn't mean we still don't respond as quickly as we can. It just means that our hours are a bit modified.
Sure. And like you said, it's that time that we are in, that we are living in. We need to start being a little more vigilant and, supporting our law enforcement and helping them out and helping helping through those means of locking our doors and just minding those things so you're able to respond to more serious incidents of crime.
Yeah.
Well, Johns, we appreciate your time joining us here this morning. Was there anything additionally you'd like to share with us this morning, or any closing remarks?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I would love to thank the citizens of Plumas County, certainly, that have been supporting us through the personnel shortage that we have. And then, Dean as well, your sheriff in Lassen County, and all those folks, they do help us out in CHP. It is a collaboration of law enforcement, especially in these rural counties, and CHP's helped us out tremendously. Lassen County's helped us out tremendously, and we vice versa. So we'll get through it. It's just it's going to be a process, and it's going to take some time. But I have faith that we will make it through this recent downfall of staffing or shortage of staffing and move forward.
I agree. I'm remaining faithful that it's going to happen, and it's just a matter of time. So we're wishing you the best of luck over there, Sheriff, and again, appreciate your time this morning and wishing you the best of luck out there. Thank you,
and my staff too. I want to make sure that I give them all the praises, because they're the ones that are really doing the hard work. So my staff that I have, they do phenomenal work every single day. So thank you again.
Thank you, and we definitely appreciate all your staff as well being out there and protecting our communities, especially on the limited time that they have and the amount of overtime that they're doing. So definitely appreciate it. Johns, thank you, and have a good rest of your day.
And you too. Thank you.
All right, there you have it again. Plumas County Sheriff Todd Johns with his perspective on our conversation this morning. Captain Bollinger, while we were in that brief break, we were kind of touching on the boldness of criminals. Do you want to touch on that a little bit? Because you're citing that the same individual get arrested multiple times. Share a little more on what we were touching on there.
Certainly. Just another problem that we're starting to see that's rearing its ugly head is the boldness of criminals. A lot of these folks, last year at this time, we had 4 officer assaults. This year we're already up to 10. So it's twofold. And it's very unfortunate, because these individuals feel that, hey, everybody else in the country's fighting the cops, I can do the same thing.
So there's just disregard for any kind of authority.
Complete disregard. There's a lot of individuals where our officers have to bite their tongue and abide by the rules and just say, hey, you know what? You can talk all the smack you want to us, but we're going to be professional about it. We've got a community to protect. If these individuals want to target our members, we'll make you a project. But we're going to do it the right way.
What is being done about these type of assaults? How are you dealing with those? Because I'm sure it's probably repeat offenders that are doing this. Some
of them are, and unfortunately, a lot of these folks are either under the influence of alcohol or they're under the influence of drugs. And if you're a mental health individual, you cannot be charged with a crime. So some of these folks may not have the competent ability to understand what they're doing. Those are not included in our statistics. When we start talking about long-term strategies, what we're going to be looking at, again, is going to be public awareness, educating the public, get them more involved. Our department does have a ride-along policy, and we encourage folks to come and do a ride-along with our guys for about 4 or 6 hours. They can do it on weekends, they can do it at night, during the day. And the last few folks that we've had come in had no idea what our guys and gals do. And they really walk away from it with a whole new perspective of what's going on here in town.
Yes, I imagine. And I hope to participate in that here soon, too. I know I was invited several weeks ago. It's just got into a busy summer. So I am looking forward to trying to get in there and do a ride along and share that perspective. Because like you said, it's a different takeaway once you're actually there. Speaking of drugs, I know there's an increase in fentanyl. We've had a lot of that coming into our county. That's probably the most recent as far as drugs in the county. Now, do you think that has an impact too? The increase of drugs, is that more of an issue than gun violence or any other kind of, or is it just a contributing factor? Is it all just
contributing factor? They almost go hand in hand with one another. The incident that took place on the knock, that was not drug related. That was just somebody upset over what somebody else allegedly had done to somebody else. But a lot of the drug stuff, people, hey, you owe me money, or you gave me something wrong, somebody disrespects me, and they pull out a gun. So instead of the old days of everybody duking it out, taking care of business, and we're just going to shoot each other. Thank goodness we haven't had any citizens hit. One of our shootings took place right in front of Mazalon Grill at like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's not normal for us. None whatsoever.
No. And that's I think what's really sparked alarm in our community is the unusualness of these incidents, the cluster of them happening, the ones happening in daylight when you're not, we're not big city. We're not, we're not San Francisco, Sacramento. We're a small rural community that we all know each other. We know whose car is driving down the street and who's walking around and things like that. So,
and Chief Cochran can attest to this. Fortunately, these come in 3s, 4s, 5s, and then we get bashed with them, and then we get silence. So hopefully we'll come into a nice, quiet time here for the next few months.
Now, we are wrapping up here. We have about another 12 minutes. I want to make sure that we open up the phone lines for folks to give us a call in if they want to share any concerns or thoughts, or want to ask the chief or captain or city administrator a question. Again, that number is 257-8255, or you can also dial 257-8256. So again, taking your calls on the topic we are discussing here today if you wish to share anything. Speaking of the drugs too, I know we have a canine officer. Are we looking to increase that? Because he has been very successful, it seems. Because there's an increase of drugs being out there, is there a possibility of adding another canine officer? Are we looking into that? Or are there any other ways that we're addressing the drug challenge?
Both Chief Cochran and Captain Bollinger are looking at me on this one, Andrea. So
I'll leave it to Dan.
I'll take a stab at it. I would say yes, that is an option that we have discussed, at least at the staff level, and bringing it forward to the council would be the next step for their consideration and approval. That is an important part of the operations at the PD, that canine officer, and as you mentioned, he has been very successful. So it's an asset, and I think that the PD could use as many assets as they can get to help support their operations. So yeah, I would say that is definitely something that we can consider, and we will consider moving forward. And then to echo a little bit of what you were saying, I think we do have the benefit of being in a small community because we do know each other, we talk to each other, we know whose car is driving by. It's very difficult for the criminals to hide in our community, and so we have that going for us. But we do need obviously the continued support of the public. We need the continued support of the people who are in the neighborhoods that may be aware of what's going on and where people are, because we do have like I mentioned, we still do have limited resources. We don't have the manpower to go out and knock on every door and park on every corner. So I think something that's really important for us moving forward is that community engagement piece, asking our citizens to be aware, to be reporting things when they see things that are not normal. And then also we do have a community engagement tool that the council embarked upon, which is our Click and Fix program. It's an app that we are going to start pushing all of our press releases out on, so that if something is relevant, we don't want to saturate people with notifications, but we want to hit the important ones. So when we have things happening within the community, we can notify the public. We have some other tools for emergency situations that we can use that are more readily available, but this is a good community engagement tool. So we're asking people to check that out. It's called Susanville Click and Fix, and it's on the Google Play or the App Store from Apple. Download that, sign up for notifications, and you can stay informed a little bit better about what we've got going on.
Definitely. And I want to say, if we don't answer your call right away, it's only because I want to let them finish out their thoughts, so I don't interrupt them. So if you do have a thought or concern that you want to share or question, please feel free. Just hang on the line there for me. I see it blinking. But I'll answer your call in just a moment as soon as they wrap up that thought. Again, 257-8255 or 257-8256 if you wish to share a thought or concern or question. And now, the click and fix app, that's good to mention, because I know we get inundated with apps, and we all have different apps for everything under the moon, but this is a good one to have, because like you said, it gives you direct notification of when a press release does get put out, versus relying on social media and seeing that pop up in your feed, because that's all its own algorithm and things. So it is a good tool to have in your hand and be aware of.
Thank you.
I think I've wrapped up a lot of the questions that I wanted to address with you gentlemen this morning. Anything in closing that you'd wish to share before we do wrap up this hour?
I'd just like to say, first of all, thank you for having us again. And if you want to help out at the PD, we have a volunteer program, and we're always looking to grow it. Come on out, do ride-alongs, help out by the river. We're trying to get that program off the ground now that we got our new vehicle, so that'll be exciting.
Oh, how's the ATV arrived?
It did, just
excellent.
a couple days ago. So
okay.
Yeah.
So we should be seeing that out and about here soon?
Should be.
It should be.
Yeah.
As soon as we get a person in there.
Yeah, so if you want to help out, come down to the PD. It's an application, quick background check, and come on out and help our community.
All right, excellent. And just before we wrap up the hour, here is a call we will take. Good morning. You're joining our special edition of Viewpoint. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I wanted to just ask a question. Do we have the right to protect our home and our properties?
Do we have the right to protect our homes and properties?
Depending on the circumstances, miss. If you are in fear of your life, that's kind of the nice thing about living in Lassen County is, and California still has the laws on the book that you have the right to protect yourself, your family, loved ones, friends, stuff like that. What it used to be, you were allowed to protect your property because it's considered a non-violent crime, and if that individual is not using force to steal your stuff, that's kind of a shady ground right now. It's kind of a gray area, unfortunately. I believe with our law enforcement, certainly not to speak on behalf of the sheriff's office, but we are all work together, and a lot of times when citizens have to use force against somebody that's harming them, their friends and family, during that investigation, we'll reach out to the DA and give them all the information we have and just say, hey, this looks good to us. This person had the right to do what they did.
Excellent. Miss, thank you for your call. We appreciate it. So that was a good question, because a lot of times we fall into that you don't want to take matters into your own hands for fear of being sued by that individual or things like that. Is that a true standing? Is that something that
we
can
don't have
occur?
the stand your ground law in California.
Okay.
This state is really starting to take steps to where if you see something or if you're a victim, take yourself out of that situation. But there are times where you can't. I mean, somebody's going to force your hand. If you're in your car driving down the road and someone tries to open your car door and they're armed, what are you going to do? We've got a lot of concealed carry individuals in this county, and probably not too smart on the bad guy to try to probably steal somebody's car here.
It's a very excellent point. We do have a lot of CCWs here. So there you have it. Well, we are just about done here this morning. It looks like we don't have any more calls coming in, so we will wrap things up. Again, I want to appreciate and say thank you for taking your time to come in this morning and address our seemingly increase in crime. We did touch on a few of that. Oh, let's go ahead and take this last call. Looks like we just got a few more minutes. Good morning. You're on the special edition of Viewpoint.
Good morning. I just wanted to say that you guys are all awesome. You do an excellent job, and we as citizens of Susanville appreciate everything you do.
We thank you. Without your support, we wouldn't be here.
All right. Keep up the good work, guys.
Take care. Thanks for the call. Well, that's nice to hear. Yes, we do appreciate all that you do out there. I especially appreciate it when I'm driving through early in the morning. I know I see plenty of Susanville PD out there monitoring the streets, making sure people are being safe and protecting our community. And I want to say thank you and excellent work getting them out there and keeping the department staffed and working hard to continue that effort. So again, thank you for joining us this morning. Oh, we're still getting more calls. We have just another minute here. We'll go ahead and take this one. Good morning.
Hi, thanks for taking this call. For those of us that live out in the rural areas, some years ago we had a lot of problem with streetwalkers coming in and getting into our outbuildings and our vehicles and robbing things at night. And I haven't seen so many streetwalkers lately, but is that still a problem in the rural areas?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. We focus primarily in town. That'd be a question for the sheriff's department. But as far as in town, we do have people that walk around all night, and we know who they are. We contact them. We keep them on our radar. So it does happen in town, yes.
Yeah, so it's something that's being monitored and those individuals being addressed. Sorry, miss, we can address your answer directly, but hope that did help a little bit there. All right, we are gonna, I think, third time's a charm. We'll wrap things up here, and we'll continue this conversation and at a later point, and we'll just continue to welcome onto the program. Again, welcome anytime to share your thoughts and concerns. And again, Captain Bollinger, City Administrator Dan Newton, and Police Chief Ryan Cochran, thank you for your time. And also another thanks to Plumas County Sheriff Todd Johns for joining us this morning as well with perspective over there in Plumas County. Gentlemen, we'll welcome you back here soon.
All right,
Thank you very much.
That is going to do it for this special edition of Viewpoint as we address crime in our rural communities and the increase thereof. We appreciate you joining us on this special hour. Now we're going to go back to your regular programming, more of Sierra's Best Country on 93 JDX. And your public affairs program, News, Talk, and Sports over on 1240 KSUE. Have a wonderful rest of the day. We'll have more local and regional news updates coming up at noon and live at 5.